Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and I'm here with David, and we are talking about finding the right teachers. I think the title is Perfect Guides and Teachers in Our Lives, but as a teacher and guide, with teachers and guides myself, I can tell you that there is no perfect guide and teacher, but I think finding the one that's best suited for us, how to find it, and how to take advantage of that relationship to use it to its fullest is a big part of what the universe is supporting us to do this week, to evaluate, to ask, and to open ourselves to receive more guidance and direction from both guides and teachers in the physical and the metaphysical. Weekly Energy Boost is a 7-day spiritual weather forecast where David and I and our guests aim to provide our listeners with the most powerful and practical tools to navigate the coming 7 days. We do that through the wisdom of Kabbalah, its wisdom and its tools, sharing also personal anecdotes and experiences so that you can use all of the gifts and the opportunities of this week and translate those teachings into life lessons that you can use anytime. And again, this week is no different. We're not necessarily embarking on a new journey in any sense of the word. It's really the universe. I think one of the most beautiful things about the Kabbalistic calendar is that if you're in tune with it and aligned with it, every week provides you with an opportunity to focus on a different angle of spiritual work and growth. And that's why this is one of the weeks of the year where we can see more clearly and focus our attention and energy on how we're receiving the guidance and direction that we seek in our lives. The Kabbalists teach that there's a reason that we are not each born on our own mountaintop, left to meditate and pray in solitary confinement. We are here with one another and at different stages and phases of the game so that we can support and inspire one another. And so especially for David and I as teachers and guides to other people on a spiritual journey, I don't think we've ever directly addressed the idea of how it works, why it exists, and the real benefit and purpose of having that kind of guidance and direction in our lives. So David, where do you want to start?
One of the things I've noticed that has been so powerful in my own life is just the desire to have people around me who can serve as a mentor. And I noticed that this is not actually a belief system that everyone adopts. Do you have people around you that represent the level of prosperity, the level of wisdom, the level of health, the level of even fatherhood or motherhood that you strive to be like? Because the number one way we will become who we are meant to become is by surrounding ourselves with people who have already gotten there. It is not from books, it's not from classes, it's not even from listening to this podcast. It is simply through osmosis, by surrounding ourselves and having our aura and our energy link up with those of other people. That's number one. So one of the things I always try to do is just surround myself constantly, both on a micro and macro level. Macro could be maybe be in groups with CEOs of other companies. Micro could be people who are just maybe really good at like one thing, like marketing or operations. Like I want to learn from them. I want to understand what they're doing. These are my teachers. These are my mentors. Majority of them are even younger than me and don't even have as much experience, but they have one thing they do really well. And I want to learn that. That's number one. Number two, I think one of the reasons that people often have a hard time finding mentors and they miss these opportunities is because they're looking for the perfect mentor or the perfect teacher. They're looking for the holy one, the one that has no negativity, the one they can trust A to Z, the one that is 100% dependable. You're looking for a unicorn. And it's one of the ways the negative side makes us, it's one of the belief systems the negative side implants in us so that we avoid ever finding someone who will help us.
And we stay small.
We stay small, exactly. It's funny, there will be people that other people will speak poorly about, so-and-so. I'll look at them and say, well, I see that in this one area of their life, they're very successful. It means that the Creator has blessed them. I will then learn from that one area. Michael Berg once taught me, it's the concept of take the fruit, throw the peel. we have to learn how to discern, have discernment with certain people. Find what's good about them. Unite yourself with that part. Learn from that. The rest, don't learn. So what? But you're not going to find the perfect mentor or the perfect teacher. However, you can kind of do a little Mr. Potato Head version of being a mentee, which is take a little bit from each person and you combine, you make the ultimate soul.
Well, that I think is part of what can be confusing on the spiritual path, and especially in a spiritual community when you have so many brilliant souls to connect with.
Right.
How do you choose? Who do you know? Who do you listen to? I often tell people, if you ask David and I the same question, we will give you completely different answers, and that doesn't mean that one of them is wrong, right? There's a very special, I would call it a meditation or an intention that the Kabbalists teach about assigning a person the role of being your teacher or your guide. And the moment you do that, Kabbalistically speaking, by designating a certain person a mouthpiece for you, a spokesperson, a channel for you, they receive wisdom, knowledge, information, guidance to support you, not from their knowledge and experience and education, but the universe basically implants messages, implants understanding and guidance within them to share with you, simply because you've plugged them in to the speaker system, to the universal information superhighway, and they're going to be that person to give you messages and support and guidance. By the same token, the Kabbalists also teach that we're here to learn from everyone. And even when somebody gives you the most unfriendly message, the most negative, the most difficult, the most challenging words, criticism, doesn't even matter, within that harsh delivery is going to be at least one nugget of truth that you need to hear. But if we're feeling victimized or isolated or targeted by the messenger, we won't get the message. And one of the things, and hopefully it's something that you've noticed in the episodes you've heard before, is that we learn the most from our students. That in those conversations and in them sharing what they're experiencing and how they're navigating it, we learn about the journey, about the process. We gain certainty and conviction in the tools and in the wisdom. So part of this message of who is your teacher and how open are you and how are you receiving and how are you connecting is opening yourself up to receive the messages that are all around you and then specifically channeled to you by your designated guides.
So many times, and I remember going to different networking events, and I'll identify people, either energetically or they kind of shine for me, whether I know them or not, and I'll literally walk up to them and say, and I'll ask them the question, how did you do this? How did you become so successful? How did you become so healthy? How did you become such a great father? People love these questions. People love to share their knowledge, their wisdom, and their experience. And that is actually a phenomenal icebreaker. If you're in a setting, and you want to connect with someone, it takes a level of confidence and humility to ask someone, I would love to know, how did you do that? Can you teach me? Can you share with me? What did you learn? And that's also another technique to draw mentors to you, to draw people. Because once a person's very successful, there's very little that brings them fulfillment besides passing that on to a protege, passing that on to others. And you see this, right? People who all of a sudden, they made this happen, they made it happen, and they want to give back, and they want to share their wisdom, and they start a podcast, they start a masterclass, they write a book, like they want to give back. There are very few, Michael Berg shared this once, the creator doesn't have enough good students. And so if that is true, then there people who are connected or tapped into the light of the creator in whatever department of their lives, the pain they have is they don't have enough good students. They don't have enough people to bequeath this wisdom to. So it's kind of shifting our mindset around, I want to draw in the right teacher, the right mentor, the right support system will help me go to my next level. And it exists. They're actually waiting for you. They're looking for you.
Actually, a minute ago, I was talking about how, well, without even piggybacking on that, there are no shortage of documentaries or news exposés on people who followed a false prophet or a cult leader, or, you know, we hear all these different headlines all the time about people who, I guess, get drunk with power and are abusive and things like that. And I'm in the middle of a book where the author is sharing a story, and it's related to the idea that, you know, if you're open to receive the messages, almost anything and anyone can be a teacher for you. So she shares that she was part of this spiritual community, and she was going through a personal struggle. And in a group session of like 100 people, her teacher like laid into her completely, humiliated her, just tore her. Well, okay, I'm gonna save my metaphors. Gave her a really hard time in public, and she felt shame and exposed and just horrible about herself, and went through her own process, through which she realized a lot of things. She left that spiritual community, and it was a really important breakthrough for her. My point is, one could go through an experience like that and put blame and harbor hate toward the teacher. She broke ties with that teacher and understood it wasn't the right environment for her, but she still understood that there was a divine orchestration that allowed for that situation to happen, without which she wouldn't have stepped aside and into her next level and into a more aligned group of people and a different teacher and a different community. So I'm sharing that also because a lot of the time, I think that one of the challenges people have around appointing or seeking out a guide or a mentor or a teacher is they don't want to be misled, right? Finding the perfect mentor is a lot about, I want to be on the right path and I don't want anyone else to lead me astray. Even those, you know, in as much as the perfect mentor doesn't exist, we're also given the opportunity to take everything that we receive, everything that we hear, even books, classes that you listen to, right? We are meant to receive them through our own filters. And obviously, we've all sat and listened to something and said, this is just for me. I'm the only one who needed this message. I feel like I'm the only one in the room, or this episode was made just for me, right? The idea is that it's really how we tune our listening system, how we record what comes across our screen or into our energy field. We get to determine if it's important, if it's meaningful. And to that point, in the book that I'm reading, the author is saying what he said, she ignored it, right? There was no validity in the criticism and in the berating, but the experience itself was the lesson. That she experienced an awakening and understanding that she was not in the place that was serving her, and she needed to get out, and she wouldn't of her own volition stepped away if there wasn't an incident that allowed her the justification, the reasoning to exit. So she was able to be in the center of that storm, not take it personally, not allow the criticism and the negativity to affect her, and yet get exactly what she was meant to from the experience. And I find often that, I had a conversation with a student yesterday who actually asked me, here's what I'm thinking I need to do. What do you think I need to do? And I said to her, what did we talk about in our last meeting? And she remembered. And I said, well, have you done that? And she said, no. And we went right back to 3 weeks ago when we had that conversation, because part of what the universe aims to give us on a daily basis is the reminder of who we really are. And in that moment, right, I was there to remind her, listen, you told me this is what you want to do. We discussed that this is how you're going to do it. And now you're finding all the external reasons and justifications why you need to be busy with that instead, and that instead, and that instead, which is keeping you from the impact and the fulfillment you're really aiming for. So part of having that teacher, that mentor, is simply having somebody to hold you accountable, someone who's not going to benefit from your success or your failure or anything else, but simply another set of eyes on the process that doesn't have the bias that you have, that doesn't have the childhood that you had, that doesn't have whatever package, whatever baggage you bring to it, to support you on sticking to what you want without letting that quest for relief or, temporary gratification distract you from the goal.
I was listening to what you were saying, and it also brought to my mind, how do you become a vessel to receive more and more wisdom from someone? Because at the end of the day, wisdom is infinite. It's the one thing that you can share, and you don't diminish what you have. In fact, you increase it. Unlike everything else, right? Money you share at that exact moment, you have less, even though energetically you'll have more later, but at that moment you have less. But wisdom, however, as soon as you share it, it multiplies immediately inside your soul. And this is why you said this earlier, when we teach classes and we're sharing with an audience, we start to learn and download so much more. Because according to what your audience desires of you and appreciates within you is the wisdom you will receive for them. If you have... the Zohar talks about how kings and presidents of countries receive a tremendous amount of wisdom because they have people who rely on them to receive. Even if they're not spiritual, even if they don't have any relationship with God or the Creator, the universe still bestows upon them energy and wisdom because of the vessel that is called their kingdom or their constituents wants to receive from them. So where am I going with this? The more we appreciate our teachers and our mentors and we overcome judgment, because the negative side will bring judgment in. Negative side will find ways to make you not appreciate or to judge or to point out deficiencies. If you can override that and truly see the good, that is how you receive from people. And this goes beyond just mentors and teachers. This goes into relationships. This goes into family dynamics. This goes into workplace dynamics. The more you appreciate, the more wisdom they will be able to give to you. You open up your vessel. You open up your aura. You open up your energy. And I just think it's what a tool appreciation is. And we always just find a way to just be bored or not appreciate or feel entitled. It is probably the biggest disease that the negative side casts upon us. Finding ways to see the good and to appreciate expands your vessel to be able to receive wisdom continuously.
And that goes both ways, by the way. If you're the teacher, mentor, boss, head of the household, whatever leadership role you have, the more you look at it as an opportunity for you and less of a position or a title or something that serves your ego or your bottom line, the more you will be endowed with wisdom and divine guidance and the right words and the right time. I can tell you, I think we've shared it in different episodes before, but before we get up to speak in front of a group, we have a whole procedure that we go through asking to be a channel, right? I have my notes, I prepare my notes, I review it, and then I put them away because I want to be present there to channel, to give. Just last night, I realized, wow, I forgot a whole chunk of what I meant to say. Okay, maybe I'll have the opportunity to say it next week, but however it came out was exactly what the audience needed to hear. Even if the unplanned part was for only one person, it was absolutely divinely inspired and not part of my plan. And I feel I do the same. I have a altered version of that for the meetings that I do with individuals and couples, that I don't want it to be, here's how I raised my kids and here you should do the same. It's not about my experience. Although the great thing about working with so many people is that you have also a case history of here's what's worked and here's what hasn't worked. Here's what's worked for me and here's what's worked for hundreds or thousands of other people on this path. And you have the fact that it's based on ancient wisdom. So it's not, I had a great idea in the shower and I'm going to share with you and it's going to make you happier. It's actually, people often ask, it seems so effortless. Well, it's relatively effortless because we're just repeating teachings that we ourselves have learned, right? We're maybe thinking of a more interesting way to say it or a better story to illustrate it with, but the wisdom and the teachings were really just being a link in a chain or a segment in that pipeline that delivers it to the world. And each one of us is capable of doing that. And I think especially when it comes to parenting, it's hard, or maybe if you own a business and you're trying to give over your values or your principles to your employees or your children, there's an attachment to the execution of what you give over. Right? Here are the standards by which you should live your life. Here's the standards by which the company should be run. And it depends on your execution of them. Or you tell your kids, don't cheat, lie, and steal. And then you catch one of them cheating, lying, or stealing. It can be earth-shattering if you're attached to the outcome and not remembering that you're there to channel the best words, the best energy, the best love. And what they do with it is not in your hands. The moment you're attached to how what you're sharing is going to be used, you block the channel. It literally, you imagine that whatever's coming to you is in this state of flow, and the moment the flow gets attached to something, the whole pipeline gets stopped up. There's no longer movement. It's stuck on something. So in this week, you also have the opportunity to ask yourself, as a leader, as a role model, as a mentor, where am I attached to how my time and energy is being used? And how can I detach from that to allow myself to receive more and to be able to give more?
I love it. I love it. I don't even have anything to say after that. That was good.
I made you speechless?
That was good.
I think, David, you have a lot of experience in, spending short spans of time with people. Somebody hires you for a session or for a week, or you get to work, you travel, you go to Brazil for a week and you get to talk to people and then you disappear. Yeah. How, if you're given...
Favorite thing for someone like me to do.
Yes. But it's something, I definitely travel less these days, but sometimes you literally have 15 minutes with someone to make an impression, to leave them with something. Sometimes you're going to talk to somebody and you're never going to see them again. How can we attune ourselves to be at maximum impact in those moments when you can't say, I'll talk to you in 3 weeks and we'll follow up and we'll see how it's going.
I love that. It's funny. I saw, besides this podcast, part of what I try to do is be on other people's podcasts at least 2 to 3 times a week. And I sit with the host ahead of time and I really ask them, I say, look, here's the bottom line. What does your audience need to know? I'm not here to talk about myself. I have nothing to sell. I'm not here to monetize anything. I just need to know, what is the problem your audience is facing and feeling? How can we solve as much of that as possible in this 30 minutes or 45 minutes? And what I've noticed is when you really hone down to what the audience needs and what these souls need, and it's 50% the host telling me what the demo is, and then it's 50% intuitively to meditate and to feel that. It's something that I know that we do before our Kabbalah seminars. I'll try to close my eyes and visualize, even though I don't know who's coming. Who are these people? What are they going through? And then you get flashes in your mind. You see relationship issues. You see certain challenges. You see detailed things. And we all have this power, by the way. We just have to tap into it. And I've learned that when I can feel the audience, know as much about the audience as possible, then in that short 30, 45 minutes, all of these tabs open up, like the way the tabs open up like on your computer, like hundreds of tabs open up and these different portals open up. And there's so many secrets that flow and energy that flows that every 10 seconds, there's like a new nugget and something that's so powerful. And I've listened to podcasts where they ramble for like 20 minutes before they even get to the point. And so what I aim to do, and who knows, that could be me too, but what I aim to do is, how do I add value in every 20 to 30 second increment? How do I, if you have an attention span that is very short, which most of us fall in that category, what can I do if you're only going to listen to me for 30 seconds? What can I say? What can I do to be able to have you walk away with something that will inspire you to be closer to the Creator? That's 50% what you say, And that's 50% the intention and energy you have behind what you say. So I'm also meditating and thinking about, as I'm saying my words, something Michael Berg taught us, that visualize our words coming out of our mouths, going up to the heavens, kissing the Creator, and then coming back to the person. Just this meditation alone, I know, makes a difference. I've seen when I talk to audiences, when I do this meditation, they're more attentive. They feel something. They don't know what they're feeling. But when I'm just talking, for the sake of talking, they're checking out. They're talking to somebody else. So we all have this power. This is a little bit of how I learned it from our teachers, how I like to implement it.
And I think it goes back to the idea that, more than what you say, people remember how you made them feel.
Ah, beautiful.
And so it doesn't even matter if you're not even engaging in a spiritual conversation with someone. It's the energy that you bring that leaves the more of the impact than the words that you use. Just as a quick reminder, we are in the final week of this month of Pisces. And while we do have another month of Pisces coming at us, yay us, this Sunday and Monday, so next week's episode will already be on the new moon. So I want to give you a leg up on what's happening. This Sunday begins the new moon of Pisces. It's a 48-hour window from Saturday night to Monday night in which your thoughts, words, and actions have greater impact on the month to come. We always encourage our guests to be extra conscious, be on your best behavior, dress for the job you want, and you create that mold, that impression for the coming 30 days. I also want to extend a special invitation to our listeners on Sunday morning. So if you're listening Monday, it's 7 days from now. The date is Sunday, March 10th. We are having a live in-person as well as live streamed new moon of Pisces event at the Kabbalah Centre in Los Angeles. You can find the link to attend live and stream in the show notes, as well as in the link in our bio if you're watching on social media. We would love to have you there. It's a combination of consciousness, workshop, and sacred sounds meditation, which is really a great way to fuel your month with the most positive genetic modification. We're going to genetically modify the seed of the month together with people from around the world. It's really a beautiful way to start the month. So that's Sunday morning, March 10th. I think it's 10 a.m., 10 or 10:30 a.m. Pacific. So you can adjust no matter where you are in the world. It'll still be the new moon. So you can participate from wherever you are or join us live and in person in Los Angeles. Other than that, we want to remind you, Weekly Energy Boost is available on all podcast platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. You can follow us on those platforms for more content based upon every week's episode. You can visit weeklyenergyboost.com where you can find the link to sign up for the new moon, as well as all the other things we think are good for you guys to know about and experience. You can click the donate button at weeklyenergyboost.com to support our podcast. And as always, continue to like, rate, review, and most importantly, share the episode so that this wisdom gets in the hands of more people and there's more light-minded individuals sharing their wisdom and seeking wisdom in the world. And we'll see you next week on the Weekly Energy Boost.